Good morning, guys. Happy
Well,
Saturday to us. Since we're releasing the episodes on Thursday, happy Thursday to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, and we're hoping that you're going to find some time to watch the episode and learn a few more things. We're going to be talking about a very passionate topic of mine. But before we do that, Joanna will tell you why we are here.
so hey, you guys, and happy Thanksgiving. I'm Joanna. That is Marcin. Together, we're here to share with you our journey through losing weight. We lost a total of 110 pounds. We're on episode 16 right now. We lose this weight by fasting and by decreasing our sugar levels, our spikes. We're very passionate about this. It works, and not only for your weight, but for your whole body. And that's our goal here, is to optimize your body.
Exactly. Um, Today, a topic that I mentioned, I'm very passionate about this because I know typically when we talk about weight loss, we typically hear people talking about two things. One is the diet, and one is the exercise. And depending on where you are or who you have for your friends, you'll either hear, people spending more time on it happens in the kitchen, and then the gym buffs will tell you that they do it in the gym. The reality from what we are learning, what works for us is that in fact it happens in the kitchen. But there's a third component that's being overlooked very often, and that component is your brain. It's your mind, because a lot of times we know exactly. I think you guys can agree with me. We know exactly what to do. It's just like for whatever reason, it's not happening, right? And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. Before we jump into numbers, just a few highlights for today. When we talk about brain, I will be covering things like procrastination, perfectionism, breaking promises to ourselves, with those promises saying we're going to start or we fail and then we restart again. We're going to talk about a little bit about dopamine and emotional eating. So, like getting that rush out of eating junky food. And then we'll mention stress and cortisol and how it's affecting our glucose spikes, because that's what we're here to talk about. And then we'll talk about some like tools to overcome those challenges. So that's really the highlight for the episode. I hope you enjoy it. Normally we hop into our numbers and we just see what happened this past week. So let's do that. Give me 1 second here. Let me switch over to our images. And before we talk about numbers, we just wanted to tell you, for those that don't know, we're in Florida. But for those that do know that we're in Florida, I want them to know that it also gets cold in Florida. I went for a walk yesterday. It was cold, man. And for Florida, for this environment where we live, 41 is really cold, because after a while, when you're here for a couple of years, like your body sort of adjusts, and I think maybe your blood is a little thinner or whatever, but like 41 feels much colder than what it felt like back in Connecticut. Um, but it was cold. It was a great walk. I around, like, we're in Palm Coast area. We have a lot of places where we can go for a walk. I chose to go to one of the parks where we have boardwalks throughout the park, so it's really nice. You guys know probably that I do the walks. Morning is a must. Evening I sometimes skip. But then after doing the walk, I hopped in. This is the time of the year where the water in the pool gets cold. So I usually do the cold plunges. We're not at the cold plunge level, temperature level of the water. We're not below 60. Nevertheless, still super cold. And I just wanted to congratulate my wife, because for the first time ever, she hopped into a water that was, I think it was 69 or 70 degrees. How did you feel about the cold plunge?
Uh, it was so I'm not gonna lie, it was tough, even though it's not as cold as you normally do it. Um, but the feeling after, it was a dopamine rush after. I just felt great. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna tell Marcin that I'm gonna do this at least once a week. And then I'm like, whoa, hold on. This is just me feeling good, you know? But definitely something that I see that I should start including into my routine.
Yeah,
Um,
it is tough. I'm not gonna at the very beginning. It took me a long. I mean, for me, it took probably 6 months to get used to it. So it's not something you just do. It's not like, but it's the same as we always preach: slow, incremental changes. Not something crazy. She was brave enough to just hop in, and she was just dealing with this cold water, huffing and puffing a little bit, which is absolutely normal and expected. But it's I totally agree. A lot of people say it's their drug of choice almost, because what happens is when we drink, for those of you that are coffee drinkers, typically what happens is you get the dopamine spikes that last from like 2 to 3 4 hours. For some of you that are that can depending on how your body absorbs caffeine, it could be a little longer, but with you, it's usually between 2 to like 4 hours. With cold plunges, it's actually an extended period. So that dopamine is a slower release, and it goes up, and it lasts for I think up to, I don't want to lie, but I think between 8 to like 10 hours. So it's very normal to like get out of the cold water and then be like super excited and like almost like not anxious but like very happy. Yeah. So what you're saying about like, oh, I got to do it more often, it's like, yeah, until you again are standing in front of the cold bucket, right? And then you have to get in again. But it is for me, I love it, and it's not only good for your psyche, then the dopamine, it's also for cardiovascular, and it's just overall. I think we should do an episode on cold plunge at one point,
I agree.
including pictures, and maybe we can record Joanna, having a
Struggling.
difficult time in the cold plunge. But that's later. The numbers again. Let's look at the your figures first.
Yes.
What's going on?
So I went up. I'm struggling. I'm struggling past last week, this week.
Yep.
Um, I 100% believe I need a reset. Um, eh, I think a mental reset is what I need. That's where it all starts. So today's episode should be a good one. As well as I got to go back to my exercises in the evening. I did 100 days. I was so proud of myself that I took a
Yep.
break. Now I'm on a week two. So guess what? I'm starting from all beginning. From this week is my plan to start from beginning with the simple exercises. Just get back into the routine.
Your weight doesn't
So
fluctuate. Does it fluctuate as much as mine? Like when we're looking at those numbers here, you go up like it's really insignificant. It's like a pound this and that way. For me, it's like 5 pounds. So it's much higher. How do you feel about when it's like jumping back and forth? Do you get demotivated, or do you
I do,
just
and
fully control it? Like what's the
I
deal?
no, I definitely like I said, the past 2 weeks, as you see, it was higher when lower, then it went higher a little bit, then it went
Yep.
higher again, and so I feel like, oh, why am I doing this, right? I mean, it's again, and I know this. We're like, this is our month three, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just tired. I just want to eat.
Yep.
And I want to, it's not that it's funny. I want to eat the bad stuff. And
Yeah.
then I have a little bit of the bad stuff and I'm like, oh, that was so stupid. And then I want more bad stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's okay. But I know it's a mental game. So, just let's, this week is all about, I haven't done my meditation in a very long time. So, long time for me is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. This has been 2 weeks that I've just let things slip through the cracks everywhere, with food, with meditation, with my exercises in the afternoon. And these are just floor exercises. They're very short. They're 10 to 20 minutes. Um, but it made me feel good. It gave me motivation. My knees are hurting again. My knees haven't been hurting for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so this week I'm concentrating on my mind and my evening little ritual.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
move on to,
For me, that. Oh, sorry.
and then I'll move on to optimizing my food again.
Okay. For me, the weight, because we didn't report our weight last week, but I think it's a 5 pound change. Like I said, for me, when I jump, I jump. But totally can relate to you, and I think you mentioned the meditation part of it. And I gotta tell you, what meditation does for me is when I do it at least 3 times a week, 10, 15 minutes, depending on how much time I have. Sometimes even when I get in like a pool and do the cold plunge, during the cold plunge, I sort of kind of I'm in the same state of trying not to think about anything, including cold. But the thing is, if I do meditation regularly, those emotions associated with like, oh, I need to eat and I deserve to eat, right? Because how we play a victim a lot of times, especially in like month 2 or 3, and then it's really easy to go back. So it's like if you have those thoughts, then just try to dial it down. Like even if you have to reach for something, reach for it, but like don't disconnect yourself, right? Don't pull the plug. Try to hang in there, because the thing is, it's usually a period of like, if you're gonna, it's almost switch almost to a maintenance mode where have the ice cream, have the cookie, have the cake, or whatever you have to have. Just try not to have cake for the breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner, right? So like, don't totally just sort of jeopardize your journey, but try to keep it to a minimum. Same thing happens with me, 65-4, and my journey. Like you'll see, my jumps are up and down now. But I gotta tell you, I know I've seen this before. When I lost the 75 originally, same thing happened. So I'm not like I've seen this data, the same, almost like the same identical graph. It's like you drop, and then you get into the maintenance, and maintenance is really the fight between like it's almost like a kind of like a yo-yo, but I'm just making sure it's not the yo-yo to the original weight. It's like it's a period of time or month or whatever where I call it maintenance, but it's not like a flat line. It's more of a up and down, but I like make sure that I don't totally kill the entire progress, right? So that's those are the numbers. And the main topic for today, let me see if I can switch to this screen here, is this dude here. We're going to talk about our brain a little bit. I'm very, very, very passionate about behavioral science and just psychology in general. I like to understand why I'm doing things, or why I'm not doing things, why I struggle sometimes. And just wanted to talk about what happens in our brain. And just quickly, I'm going to take you guys through this article. I should probably, Joanna, do you have something that you can write with, or no?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so because if you can just take a note of what I have to post later, that would be awesome.
Sure.
Because it's an article I can share with you guys if you're interested, for those of you that are. But it's basically our brain, inside our brain. The 3 things that I wanted to focus on are 3 things. It's our conscious brain, our instinctive mind, and our unconscious mind, because the battle really happens in the unconscious part of our brain. It's not where we do the logic and the math and the decision making, which a lot of times when we're dieting, we're thinking we're in control and we're controlling that. That's not true. The battle really happens where the battle happens is the unconscious mind. This is sort of, if you think about it, it's almost like you probably were in a situation before where, let's say you're driving to work, and sometimes you get in the car, you get almost like into the parking lot of where you work, and you don't really remember how you got there. This is exactly what happens when your unconscious mind is just executing flawlessly, because sometimes we think of like, oh, maybe I missed the light, and like you did not. It's just so programmed. It's so flawless that it will get you through a situation, including the dangerous ones, without a problem. So that's exactly what happens also when, that's what happens is when we eat, your brain is making those decisions independent of what you're thinking. Because when we go into a restaurant, for example, and we sit down, the first thing that we do is look at the menu, and 2 things kick in. It's your conscious mind, the logical mind, and your instinctive mind, which is sort of the survival, the emotional part of it. So what happens is you're looking at the menu, and usually you have the battle of like evil and good, right? Because on one side you're looking through the menu and the picture's like, oh my god, I would have this and this and this and this. And then second thing that happens is your logical mind then kicks in a little later, and then it goes, well, yes, but that would be too much, or look at this, this has too many calories. Or then we go into ingredients like, yeah, the steak would be nice, but maybe not the potatoes. So that's the battle between the conscious mind and the instinctive mind. But in the very, very, very end, unconscious mind will do what it's doing all the time. So you can think that you're in control, but in the end, you're going to make a decision that's sort of wired inside of you, and you're just going to make the decision. It's going to be the same decision as 98% of the decisions that you have made in the past. So that's really what happens. And the conscious mind is in front of your head, and unconscious mind, it's primarily neocortex is your entire brain, and then the instinctive mind, which is the emotional, is at the base of your brain. So this is where it's connected to your spine, because when we get the senses of touch and smell and feel and hearing, this is the first part that gets activated. So it's usually the emotion. When you get up in the morning and you don't feel like getting up, that feeling, the word that we use, like I don't feel, it's where it comes from. And then logical mind kicks in and goes, you got to go to work, dude, because you're going to be unemployed tomorrow. That's what happens a little later. So it's a process that's inside your brain. If you're interested, people, a lot of times you're going to hear people talking about the three types of animals. But what they talk about is an elephant, which is the unconscious mind. So it just sort of steers on its own without us being able to control it. Then they will talk about the monkey. They talk about two monkeys sitting on top of the elephant. One is the emotional, and one is logical. And then the lizard is sort of the fear, which is very, very native, very instinctive. So this is kind of the parts that are controlling your brain. All I'm saying is that elephant will go however it feels like. And the monkey, even though it feels like it's in control, will always sort of come up with justifications of why it did what it did. So if the elephant is at the crossroad and it goes left, monkey will for sure know that like she wanted to go left. And if the elephant goes right, monkey will give you justifications on why she went right and that she was planning to go right. So that's what we're targeting today. We're talking about unconscious brain. We're talking about the elephant. And the first thing that I wanted to go over, I was trying to be fancy. I created this title of Psychological Aspects of Weight Loss. And then it sounded kind of boring, so I switched to how your brain makes you believe in things that do not exist, because that's really the reality of the situation. And the ask for you, Joanna, will be kind of as I'm going through the different sections. I wanted to get your feedback on how sometimes you feel in those different situations. So not asking for additional information, more of like, hey, how do you feel about it? Because in reality, we struggle more with other things. Sometimes when I talk about like getting not maybe motivated, but like having a simple discipline, and I talk to somebody that has a great physique, sometimes they don't know what I'm talking about, because discipline to them, it's not, it's just not something they struggle with. So having feedback from you would help a lot. So
Yeah,
first thing here is the big guy here is understanding procrastination. And I got to tell you, I am horrible with procrastination. And procrastination is usually fear of failure. We think that we're sort of delaying things, but really inside what we feel is that, and especially if we have tried dieting before or kind of doing things differently, maybe going to the gym, and we know we have failed, you're going to have this in the back of your brain, those thoughts that in the unconscious mind that will kind of steer us to like, yeah, no, you can do it, but you're going to need some special things. We usually think of like supplements and exercise equipment, and like we got to sign up for the gym first so that we can go on Monday. So procrastination is really the fear of not being able of failure, so not being able to do it. And a lot of procrastination is also with expectations, because when we start our weight loss journey, we usually set some sort of a goal in mind, right? So when we start, and it gets worse, the more overweight you are, the worse it gets, because it's really hard to imagine, especially if you have like, let's say 40, 50, 60, 100 pounds to lose, or wherever you are in your journey. It's really hard to imagine that something that's been part of your body will actually, in fact, be gone just simply by us doing something, right? So on day one, it's super hard to imagine that. And then once you jump into this process, you basically compare yourself every day to this ideal goal, right? Of like 60 pounds. And that's why we fall off the wagon, because it's like on day 14 or day 31, you're like, well, it's not working because I'm not there yet. And we don't think about the smaller goals. So something we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the expectation is super important, and that's why we procrastinate. We usually set some sort of a date. I'll start on Monday, not thinking that like this Monday will not be any different than today. And if today was hard to start, Monday it'll be the same exact thing. But for your mind, it almost feels like you're doing something just because you've set this date and it's in the future. And like, well, it almost gives you an excuse of not doing anything today. So it's a really neat way of being lazy, right? Because we have the date. Sometimes some of us will like go and research supplements or gym equipment or order it and then wait, and it's all procrastination. So and then another thing is that's part of procrastination is the overwhelm. So a lot of times, even with us listening to us, if you, for example, haven't started yet and you're on episode 16, you have received so much new information that you may simply be stuck and just kind of not knowing what to do. Like, okay, great, this all sounds fantastic. He's talking about brain, but what do I do right now? So overwhelm plays a big part of it, because it's just we really kind of don't. We have a lot of information and we don't have a exact plan on where to go, how to start, and what to do in our particular situation. Because it's different. Your caloric intake is different. You're either female or a guy. You decided to go to the gym or not. So there's different ways of doing it, and usually overwhelm causes us to kind of step back. The next thing is the have to be, and I kind of talked about it already. A lot of us is like, well, in order to get to my goal, I actually have to now have the equipment or the supplements, or girls usually go out and like shop for clothing first, because that's a perfect excuse to go out and shop again. So what happens is we think in those patterns where we have to have something in order to do something, in order to be, meaning to get the result. That will cause a problem with procrastination. And then comparison to others, right? A lot of times we question ourselves. We're not sure whether we could achieve a goal, because usually when we talk to somebody that knows something about diet and exercise, we're the exception because we look like regular human. But when you talk to like coaches, you intuitively, again, subconscious mind, we're judging. As we're talking to somebody, we're judging, and we're comparing ourselves to this person. And it's usually like when you're overweight, your brain tells you that it's just not going to happen with where you are. So comparison is a big part of it. Now, in terms of how we can overcome those barriers, we have to understand that when we start, it's not going to be ideal. Day one will not be perfect. You're gonna be messy with your calories. You're gonna be messy with your schedule of when you eat. But over time, when you start on day one, the simple action of just modifying one simple thing, right? Whether it's your hours or maybe your calories. Don't try to do everything on one day, because again, you're gonna get overwhelmed. But maybe start with hours. Maybe start with just figuring out, hey, what is it that I actually eat every day, right? You can sit down with a piece of paper, or as you go through the day, kind of note down what you're eating, and then maybe start there. If you don't want to start with the food, maybe you just want to take 10-minute walks every day. So if you could simplify those things, that's the best you can do. That's the best thing you can do to yourself, because even if a lot of people say that they have failed at something, and I can tell you this. If you're going to start on day one, even with your calories or your hours, there's two things that are going to happen. One, you're either going to succeed, so you're going to win, or you're going to learn. So don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as, hey, I've tried something. It didn't work this way. I got to make sure I modify. And guess what happens? On day two, you're already in a better spot, because you have either succeeded on day one or you have learned, and now you know exactly what to do. Not something that we natively like to do, because we would like to succeed at everything immediately. But just keep that in mind, and know that You will learn, you will win, or you will learn. Action steps, like I said, those are the easy steps. So just start small and then build upon it. I also say connected to a bigger life values. This is a big one for Joanna, because when she talks about her weight loss, she's not like when we were in our 20s. I think it was more about like the looks and the beach body and whatever else.
Yeah.
And now it's more about when you guys hear us, we usually talk about like glucose levels and being healthier and living longer. I know she's super sensitive in terms of like, hey, I want to hang out with my kids for as long as possible. Um, so when that goal is tied to like this bigger life value, it's so much easier because it's not just about looking better. Because eventually, a week into this process or a month into this process, you're gonna say like, screw whoever you're trying to impress. You're gonna say, screw Joanna. I'm not gonna try to impress her. Like, let's say I was trying to lose weight just to impress Joanna. I'll say, you know what? She's not worth me going through all this pain. But if you think in terms of bigger goals, bigger values, hey, my kids, I'm going to live longer. A lot of people get cancers today. A lot of people walk around and talk about dementia or Alzheimer diseases or whatever. Like, if you think about it, now it becomes much, much bigger. The next thing is reversing the thing that I said about having something first and then doing and becoming or achieving a goal. You actually have to understand that like instead of focusing on this weight that you have to lose, the let's say the 40 or the 50 the 60 pounds, you have to actually focus on actions that you're taking every day, because the goal, the 60 pounds, will come as long as you do the little elements of the little what do I want to call it, your little contributions to the process, right? Whether it's walking, whether it's eating, whether it's taking care of yourself mentally. If you look at your day and say, hey, listen, here is what I am committing to, you have to sort of put yourself first and say, this is what I'm doing, I'm serious about it, and I'm gonna actually do those things. It takes a little bit of an effort because you have to schedule it and then do it. And then you'll notice that instead of like needing to have things and having the membership, gym membership, or attire, or supplements, it actually the process becomes much easier because you are just you're being this person. You prioritize this goal really high on your list, and by being, you have to then having that identity, you're then starting to do the tasks, and then eventually you have you have the goal that you have set for yourself originally. So that thing is shifted entirely. And then I also mentioned the comparison in the first group, and if you just simply stop focusing on other people. I know it's really hard, super hard, because intuitively we do comparison all the time, whether it's the way we look, whether it's our education levels, whether it's the car we drive, the house we have. So the same thing happens with your inside your brain when it comes to your looks and your journey. A lot of times, especially when let's say if you wanted to get together with your friends, whether it's guys or girls, what happens is you are gonna compare yourself, and everybody will have different results. Not because they're special, it's because everybody has different time commitments, everybody has different family commitments, everybody has different diet or foods that they digest, right? So it could be different. It's driven by a lot of factors. It's not that you're not doing the work and somebody else doing the work. And the best way you can do is compare yourself to yourself. So if you do the work and then compare yourself a week from now to yourself 7 days prior to that day, measure those results. Don't look at anybody else. Look at yourself, and as long as you're losing the weight, that's the only thing that matters. And if you're going to be consistent in doing that, you eventually succeed. I need to take a breather and a sip of water. Joanna, how do you feel about that? Where are you usually stuck based on what I just said?
Okay, so you know what? Let's talk about procrastination, and
Yeah.
I am very bad at this too. And it's not. I think I am worse at it at work than I am with my health. And that's just my priorities in life. That's what I've learned. So But when it comes to health as well, exercise is a big one. I will push it off as much as I can. Um, even even sometimes walking, I'm like, oh, do I really want to walk? But I know that if I don't do it in the morning, I will not do it later. I will find any excuse in the book why I can't do it in the afternoon. Um, so I'm horrible at the procrastination. But go back a little bit further from the article. You mentioned to me the elephant, the monkey, and the lizard long, long time ago, and that really stayed with me. So I do this internal talk of when I don't want to do something or I don't want to get up in the morning or whatever it is. It's an internal talk for a minute or so, and okay, let's go, let's do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's more of a awareness thing, right? If we sort of check on ourselves, it's like, sounds weird, but it's like thinking about what we're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So and it actually requires you to pause for a little bit and then just kind of reflect on what's going on internally. We go 150 miles an hour every day. Nobody thinks about what they're thinking. It's just we're in the execution mode, and a lot of times we're negligent in that regard. So totally agree with what you said. Did you want to add anything else, or you want me to get going?
No, just get going. Yeah.
Okay. So this is procrastination. And then the second guy here is the illusion of perfect start. So I love this one because usually what happens is whenever we think of like dieting, and I was telling you about this like Monday scheduling or January 1st is the biggest one. We all know about that one. Our subconscious brain operates on stories. If you want to change, if you want to impact the way your subconscious brain works, it reacts to stories. So it's basically breaking beliefs, right? Because over time, as we get older, we sort of develop this network of stories and successes and failures. And the only way to sort of overcome that is for somebody to tell us a story with a different outcome, where we can then go back and look at the result of the failure and say, okay, well, maybe I was wrong on this particular item, and that's the way to change it. With perfect start, whenever we're thinking about dieting, there's a couple blockers and things that we can do to sort of overcome that. Judgment, I already mentioned that for the perfect start. When we have the story, it sounds great. It's sort of an illusion, but then the day comes, we have to actually start judgment. I already mentioned that because it's the comparison. And then we think of like all or nothing thinking. This is really tricky. It happens with me a lot because whenever I remember in the past when I was trying to do like a P90X program, for example, I would immediately my mind would be set on the 90 day as my success. And when I looked at the calendar of the program, it had to start on Monday. Or maybe in my head it had to start on Monday. Who knows? It was probably me. And then I would start on Monday and follow the schedule. And usually for the first like 5 days, everybody's good. 7 days, everybody's good. Maybe 2 weeks, everybody's good. But like week 3 creeps in. Something happens. Something happens with your parents. Something happens with your kids. You have an event. You get sick.
Yeah.
And with me, I would immediately take that as a failure. And I would, for whatever weird reason, I would almost cross it out of my list, and I would start from the beginning. So it wouldn't be just like, hey, just keep on going and then continue. It would be an immediate stop because I have failed. And guess what I would do? I wouldn't start the next day or the following Monday. It would usually take 3 weeks or a month or 2 months before I would start the program again. So it would be this continuous cycle of just like starting, failing, going back, and starting and failing and going back. It's not only exhausting but absolutely ineffective. And it comes down to unrealistic standards. When you have that perfect imagination illusion of what this process will look like, you're disconnected from reality, because a lot of times this process will be messy. Like, don't expect to be perfect. Don't expect to eat perfectly with all the calories accounted for and all the hours being perfect every day. Like, this is gonna be a shit show. So like just get ready for that and know that if you do have this shitty day, we all have them, that you can then pick up the next day and just continue on going. This is the most effective way. Once we kind of broke through this wall, things started working for me and Joanna, and we just continue on. And sometimes we have a streak of bad days, and
Mhm.
then we just don't stop. And it's like we go back a little bit, and that's why you see the spikes in like the weight and stuff, because it'll go up, but it'll never be a yo-yo back to your original and then down and then yo-yo to original. It's usually like spike or two, or it doesn't matter. But as long as you sort of maintain it, even if you go up, it's not a big deal. For the I mentioned the sort of taking action, imperfect action, to deal with the perfectionism. It's the progress over achievement. It's exactly, I'm going back to what I said earlier. Uh, just define the things that you want to do daily. It's not going to be the same for everybody, but let's say your hours, right? Um, Joanna and I talk about like following the same set of hours Monday through Sunday. Maybe you can do it just for 2 days first, and then extend to 3 days, and then 4 days, and ultimately go to like a full week of following your hours. Maybe you can do, maybe you can follow your hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. Like any positive change towards your goal will
Yeah.
ultimately get you there. It's not going to be what we're doing today. Like I can tell you, this week, because of my weight, I will be on 20 hours of not eating and 4 hours of eating and 20 hours of not eating. To some people, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Like starting there, you're going to fail automatically. So like, don't even attempt, because you're going to be super hungry. To me, I'm already familiar with the feeling of being in a cold water that's 63 degrees. I'm familiar with not eating for an extended period of hour. But let me tell you, I'm not as good as Joanna. She goes 24 hours and no hiccups. Like I have no idea how she's doing it, but it's just something that her body is more okay with. For me, I need like a I need I just need longer adjustments. Whenever I'm changing something, I'm like, okay, I got to do it for 2 weeks or three. And I know it's a long time, but at least it works. Because if you're going to try to get there faster, you're basically going to fail. Joanna, any did I cover everything here? Progress over achievement. Oh, define good enough. It's you guys get the point. You have to be okay with not being whatever your imaginary life looks like while on diet. Just know that it needs to be good enough. It's not going to be perfect. It's totally okay. If I have to use an analogy, if you leave, for moms out there, right? Let's say you leave your kid with your moms, with grandmas, right? Like, do you think grandmas are going to handle your kids the same way as you do? Like, no. And just be okay that it's good enough. Is the kid alive? Yeah. Was it fed? Yeah. That's good enough. Maybe you didn't get enough hugs, although with grandmas, it's probably not a chance. But you get what I'm saying. So like, define your good enough and just be okay with it, and don't stress over like progress
Yeah.
over this achievement, over the perfection, right? And then mistakes are just part of being a human, and we all know that. Joanna, anything
Yeah.
you wanted to add?
So yes, I agree with you. I create a perfect start in my head for exercise for some reason. I'm still stuck on it. Even for, like I shared earlier, on today's the weekend, but on Monday I'm starting that my light,
Yeah.
afternoon exercise. Why not today? My brain is just stuck on Monday. But as to food, I have learned to be perfect enough, which means there's no excuse for me today not to eat a healthy breakfast. There's no excuse for me to eat a healthy lunch. No matter what I have in the fridge, I know I can make it healthy. And if I choose at the end of the day to have my ice cream, um, one thing that I've learned now over a year, that I don't have desserts as my meals. I have my dessert as a dessert on my sweet things, so the damage is not as bad. But I will have it. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow I can start with ice cream or anything like that. So yeah, so I still have that feeling around exercise where it's
Yeah.
got to be a perfect start.
Yeah. And for me, I got to tell you, like this whole Monday business, there's no way I'm starting anything on Wednesday. Like I'm just weird this way. I don't know. It's so like it's so embedded that like Monday is the start of the day, which I know it's kind of funny because even with me, when we have our calendars set on our phones, you start your week on Sunday, right?
Correct.
And I start, and mine is adjusted to like start on Monday. It's like it's like that bad that it has to be this way. And at work, I have the same thing. My calendars start on Monday. Monday is the holy grail for me, and I'm not giving it up. And so whatever, it is
Yeah.
what it is.
I do want to
Um,
mention one thing though.
uh-huh.
It took me a long time to get over this. If I'm for any reason, let's say I'm really sick in the evening, and over the 100 days that I did my exercises, because that was a
Yeah.
perfect. I used this as my kind of learning more about myself and seeing if I can do this. If there was one day I was sick, I wasn't feeling good, and I didn't do my exercise, it was hanging over my head for a couple days that I
Mm,
did not do this, even though the
wow.
next day I did. Um, so I just want you guys to know that it's normal. You will feel like, oh, I did
Feels like failure.
bad.
Yeah,
It feels like failure, yeah, but it's okay. It's okay because if you get up the next day and do that thing that you wanted to the next day and the day after and the day after, that one day or 2 days or that one meal will not matter because overall you did good for a longer period of time, and that is the difference that we're looking for.
totally. Yeah, I agree with you. Feels like failure. And that's that good enough. That's where it comes from,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're gonna say like, let's say the program that you're talking about is 100 days. If you did 86 days, would
Yeah,
that be good enough? Would that help you then giving up after 16? Let's say you have your first failure was after 16. Is it better to do 86 days and then fail on 14 or quit on day number 17 and never do it
yeah,
again? Like it's very tricky. That's what our brain is doing to us. But remember, the subconscious mind is there to protect you. It's all self-preservation. Your brain doesn't want your body to do anything. Just sit and eat and reproduce. Like that's it. It doesn't want you to go and join gyms. So that's what happens is, and that's why those like the weird frameworks, like weird feelings, it's not because we immediately feel like we're a bad person by not following, doing, or being disciplined, right? And it's like, no, just keep on going. Like eventually, once you go through this fake failure a couple times, you're gonna be like, yeah, no, I feel this way, but like I know it's total horseshit, and you're just gonna move on and do your thing. So it's just you're adjust to it over time.
yeah.
All right. The next one is breaking promises to yourself. Okay, this will just gonna be a quick one, but very important. So what happens here is you see four things: broken promise, reduced self-efficacy, negative self-talk, cycle of inaction. Basically, what your brain does there is imagine you scheduled a meeting with your closest friend. You go for coffee. You show up at Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, depending on which camp you're in, and your friend did not show up. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe something happened. Maybe something happened. Maybe it's a true emergency. Maybe they forgot. So you reschedule, and then the next Saturday you're waiting again.
Hmm.
They didn't show up. Unlikely it's an emergency, but maybe. So you reschedule it again, and then third Saturday in a row you're sitting there and they didn't show up again. What are we thinking about our close friend? chances are chances are is that it may not be our closest friend anymore at that point, but this is exactly what our brain is doing. We so it's this meeting is what we're doing with us when we're trying to diet and exercise, and we break that promise. And what we don't know is that subconscious mind takes a record of every single thing that we didn't do it, and it almost writes this script of telling us that like we're not this person that follows scripts. So next time when we try to take up on the challenge of doing it again, in the back of your mind, you are kind of going to know that, like, well, you know, you may be motivated. Your friend may be, maybe hyping you up, but like in the back of your mind, there's always this thought of like, well, but I haven't done this before, or not successfully, or whatever, and that's what's holding you back. It's a big deal. So it starts with a broken promise to yourself. Reduced self-efficacy is basically when you're questioning yourself, and then you start on this whole negative spiral of like thinking about what else you didn't do, and it just gets really messy and really bad really quick. And then you basically started with coming up with excuses of not to do it. So it's the cycle of inaction. So it's really four things. It's really important to know that this happens, and again, simply start moving, taking imperfect action, and just going.
Yes, little steps at a time.
Yeah. Anything on that one that you wanted to add?
No, just you got to talk to yourself, like you said. Even if it's the first day isn't the greatest, whatever little thing you did is much better than not doing anything at all, right? I think it was in the habits, the book that we've read, that 1% of doing something gets you way further than no percent at all, or one day doing 60% and then not doing anything for the rest of the month. So it's
Yep.
those tiny changes. If even like Marcin said, you move your hours in a little bit and stay there, great. You're just doing something better for yourself. If you decide to have a healthy breakfast every time you start your day with a healthy breakfast, no sugar, you're already setting yourself for a better day. So
Yes. And speaking of 1% every day, people make a common mistake of thinking that 365 days, 1%, you're 365% better than your January versus your December version. It's 365% better. It's actually not true, because it's the effect is compounding. So if you add 1%, you're already better, and it's a 1% of that better self.
mhm.
So actually, the number is 2,700%. You're 270 times better if you do 1% every day. Simple math.
Yeah.
I got stuck on this. I never understood it, but now I do. And it's like, it's a huge deal when you guys change 1% every day. I want you to understand that.
Right.
Website, back to the website. Emotional eating and self-sabotage. Who's guilty of that? I think it's a common category for everybody, especially ladies and their ice cream stuff. But that's yeah, it's guys. I don't know. It's me. I don't know if all the guys are doing this, but maybe it's just a category of foods. I reach for the sweets. We have our vices, right? And when it comes to food, some people may not like. Well, I don't eat sugar, but they are consuming like breads and the rolls, and
Yeah,
it's the same thing on the inside, right, of your body. But yet they think it's not sugar. Just I
it's not
mean,
as bad.
because
Yeah.
we don't understand the categories of foods, right? So everybody has their own food vices. Emotional eating and self-sabotage. What do I have here? Emotional eating occurs when food is used as coping mechanism. You guys know the spiel. This happens for me. I I'm not sure which category you fall into, but like it's easier for me not to do it in the morning and during the day than it is at night, and there is a simple reason
Yeah.
for it. It's a physiological explanation. The muscle of saying no is your everything comes down to the frontal cortex, that decision making, whether I'm going to do it or not. When you wake up in the morning, your frontal cortex is loaded. Its battery is 100%. Decision making is at 100%. That's why you're going to hear a lot of times like successful people will give you a story of like they don't make their clothing selections in the morning. Think of like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. You always see them in jeans and black t-shirt, and they constantly talk about this. Like, I don't want to make any decisions that I don't need to make in the morning. I need to get up, put something in my mouth, put my black t-shirt on, and go to work and make those decisions first, and then anything else comes after that. This is the decision. I'm gonna skip the term. You're your decision fatigue. So basically, over time, as the day goes by, your frontal cortex gets tired. Battery goes down, the decision making goes down, and it goes to the level when at like 6 p.m. For me personally, it's not just decisions about food. It's decisions about anything. Sometimes we have conversations, decisions we have to do about kids or something bigger. I always tell Joanna, like, tomorrow morning. I call it I need to sleep on it, but I don't need to sleep on it. I just need to be rested to make the more
Right.
important decision.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. It gets even worse with alcohol, because alcohol disables frontal cortex at all. That's why everybody gets in trouble, whether illegal or with their wife, or just making shitty decisions after drinking, because alcohol disables that immediately as it enters your body. So saying no after alcohol, saying no to food after alcohol, good luck. It's just totally not possible. Like, that part of your brain is disabled, and the second we have alcohol, that's why we eat, all the time. That's why whatever, after a party, 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, you would go out and just eat whatever nasty hot dogs out of the stand, because you just don't care. It's all about emotions. It's all about that emotional limbic system, and you'll eat whatever's in sight. So having hopes around, like, hey, I'm gonna just have some wine and not eat anything, like, especially after 2 glasses, you stand no chance. Just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying alcohol is bad. I've drank my good share, but the thing is, something you guys need to know about. Emotional eating creates reliance on food for emotional regulation. So what's going to happen is eventually you're going to notice yourself, whenever you feel bad, it gets worse, because you are training your body, conditioning your body to, like, bad emotion, food, right? So over time, I guess what we're advising is that try to, over time, develop things where, if you're not in the best mood, try to stay away, because the separation is what really gets you. It's really the fix, the 90-second rule. So when somebody pisses you off, I know it's hard, it happens to us all the time, but, like, try to separate yourself and maybe go for a walk, maybe go for an exercise, maybe whatever gets, even going outside and just sitting there literally for 5 minutes will get you back down. I promise. So that's what happens. If you can untrain your body from, like, bad emotion food, and, like, maybe every other time go to, like, okay, this time it's food, but this time I'm gonna go for a walk, it's better. And over time, try to say, okay, not feeling great, I'm gonna go for a walk, or I'm gonna sit, without doing anything, or I'm gonna just go and maybe watch something I enjoy, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Netflix or whatever. But, like, untraining your body from connecting bad emotion to food would be great. And what happens is also, it leads to guilt and shame, and perpetuating the negative cycle. So, like, not only you felt bad and you ate, now you're feeling bad about feeling bad and eating. So, like, and
Yeah.
it just gets worse, and then you eat more,
And
and
then you give
having
up.
right, and having those glucose spikes every time is not helping you. Now you're all over the place, because it's like your glucose is up, you're triggered, you're not feeling well, and it's like, might as well just eat that. And usually those are the thoughts we get, like, well, since I already ate this, I'm just gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
pig out. So that's what happens. That's the emotional eating. Anything you would like to add here?
No, I'm guilty. I've been guilty for this since, I think, in my early 20s. I'm definitely an emotional eating person, and I would just go with the sweet stuff always. Um, it's a little different now, because, again, we've done this for a long time, and I
Yeah,
know what to do. Um, Sometimes I think more, and now I turn into, like, watching something to get away from it, but going outside, uh, just getting myself busy. Even cooking
yeah,
helps me.
yep,
Uh,
totally,
eh,
totally.
Marcin completely makes fun of me. I'm not eating for 24 hours, but I will cook up a storm, and put things away in the fridge, because I'm excited for what I'm
Yeah,
gonna eat when I can.
still
It
don't
makes
get
me
it.
feel good. I love cooking, so.
Yeah, still don't get it, but it's okay. Whatever works for you, right? Um, Next one here is the impact of stress on weight. I'll make that short. It's just cortisol. So the problem is really with the internal mechanism, where the cortisol goes up with stress, and cortisol increases your appetite. It bumps your glucose. The insulin that's being then released in response to glucose causes fat storage, and
Mhm.
just leading to weight gain. So that's really what it is. So what do we do? We just have to prevent stress. I'm not gonna get deep on this, but it's just your daily routines, your meditations, your sleep. At work, we just got to be a little careful. We know it's hard. There's a lot of stress at work, and I think and relaxation techniques like the meditations I mentioned, that the yogas, even
Breathing. Yeah.
exercise. And be careful with exercise, because walking will be different than heavy exercise. Heavy exercise actually causes this stress feeling of like even more cortisol, because it's almost like a flight and fight situation when we're like really pushing at the gym. So don't try to overdo it. Just take it easy in those situations. And now, so now we're gonna try to kind of revert back. We've talked about a lot of negative. We're gonna talk about like how to sort of prevent, how to deal with those things. Me and Joanna we talk about setting realistic goals. I mention that all the time. Just take it easy. Be realistic. Don't try to dream up your goals and just hit them on the first week or first month. So we do talk about ideas of setting SMART goals. A lot of people are familiar with SMART goals. It's basically it's the SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So when you're setting those things, it's basically like I'm kind of overdoing this right now, but like with SMART goals, it's basically like, okay, I'm gonna lose the weight. It's gonna be, let's say, to start with, it's gonna be 10 pounds. It's something that you can actually measure. It's something that's achievable. It's not like you're saying I'm gonna lose 100. Like, don't start there.
Yeah.
Start small. 10 pounds. Relevant. This is tying it to the big something that you actually want. Don't just listen to somebody's advice and like, well, they told me, so I have to do it. So that's where the relevant comes from. And time bound, you have to set a date, because you can say 10 pounds and then just do it over a 12-month period. So that's where the SMART part is coming from. And then as you go, adjust your goals. So you have to modify your targets as you kind of progress, and you just adapt to your journey. So once you lose the 10, choose another 10 or choose 20 or whatever, if you want to challenge yourself. And then celebrate achievement, and don't do it with a cake or alcohol. Make sure that you reward yourself. A lot of people do it with different things. They do it with like, hey, I'm going to do a little trip. I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to, it's something that you enjoy looking forward to, and it's this reward in the end. So whether it's a trip, whether it's a purchase of some kind, even if you're thinking about purchasing equipment, I'm not anti gym equipment or whatever, but like, let's say you want to buy a treadmill or maybe an exercise bike. I think it makes more sense once you have proven to yourself that you're capable of losing 10, 20, 30 pounds, and then buying the bike for the next 30 pounds, rather than buying the bike and never using it again, or buying a treadmill and never using it again. So that's what we are talking about. When we talk about SMART goals, that's really what it is. Support system. I think this is a big one. Some people can do it in silence and they're in their own home without ever sharing anything. It's not something that we do. We, quite frankly, go the other way. We think that it's sort of like an accountability. We feel that if we're here sharing the information with you guys, it keeps us accountable. Even if we fail, it's okay. It's part of that. Over time, you develop that muscle of like, this failure, the stuff that we talked about before, and it's like, it's okay. We know how this works. Sometimes it's not going to work. If you fail, don't worry. Like, we're here to help. If you need to reach out, ask a question. If you need to join us, Joanna will talk about the challenge that we're recording on Saturday. This will be released on Thursday, but she was going to be talking about a second challenge. So hopefully you guys go through it. But the support system here, what we're talking about is the importance of community. kind of like you are in this group right now with us. So it's always better to surround yourself with people that are kind of trying to reach the same goal, because we're all trying
Yeah.
to help each other, and we're here for support and accountability. You can create, you can invite your friends. If there's something going on, like gyms. I remember, what was the name of the gym that was in Connecticut next to our house?
Big Sky?
I think so. So like Big Sky had, different like events and the challenges or the marathons or whatever. Like if you can bring a friend and just kind of do the same thing together, like that helps tremendously. And then we have using apps. Like I know
Mhm.
some of my friends have the application. I'm so bad with names, but the application name is like Strava. So when I go for walks, Strava keeps track of kind of where I am, it has a little diagram and the map of like kind of what I did, and it has the steps and it has the mileage. And then
Yeah.
some of my friends are in the same application. They're biking, but who cares? Like that's their choice. I walk, they bike, but it's kind of fun to look at, through the app, and like it's like motivating you without anybody sitting and having to motivate you, because if it's like self-propelling thing where you go for a walk the next morning, you're seeing like, oh, my buddy went for, and then like biked or walked, or and then we share the journeys, and then we share some pictures sometimes. So it's really cool through like a mobile application to go in and keep yourself on track and having that data, and then being motivated by like other people. Anything you would like to add here?
No, no. I
Okay.
use the app too for walking, and I push myself mile to mile. So if I do the first mile in 17 minutes, I try to do the next mile a little bit less, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no,
So,
exactly. That's what it is. And then eliminating friction. That's another something that's been sort of helping us. This is when we're talking about like walking or food preparation, or other activities that are part of your journey. It's just you have to. I'm going to use walking for example. I remember when I started walking, I didn't really. I couldn't. I would call it not being able to fit it within my schedule, but it's not really that you can't. It's just you operate your unconscious elephant, just kind of drives you every morning. You get up, you have no control. It's just you go where you go, you do what you do. Your habits are taking over, and there's not much thinking involved. So what happens is you actually have to sit there with intention of like adjusting your schedule to make sure that whatever is in your whatever you need to do whatever the plan is, whatever the goal is, that you need to make it as painless as possible. So I'll use an example with like for us foods. For me personally, one friction that I needed to remove was like I'm big on like not having a cluttered counter in the kitchen.
okay.
I hate it with a passion. But Joanna knows. Oh, I've given her enough of pain over the years. But in order for me to do it, I would never remember to take my salt or my supplements or whatever it is. So I had to come to peace with myself to say, listen, if that's the only way to make it happen. So now the salts, the supplements, the little mixers for the coffee and MCT oil sits on top of the counter. And let me tell you, I just got used to it over time. Like it was sort of not a thing I would do, but it's all mental blocks. It's just your unconscious elephant not wanting to move. But if you slowly move that elephant, if you like do it on one day, maybe you don't do it all at once with like 4 or 5 different things. But if you can prove to the elephant and show to the elephant that it's like it will benefit you and it actually work, the elephant will start to like, it'll start to question itself, right? Because you have that wiring embedded with you where you're like, no, I hate it. It was always my thing. I am just that way. And over time, when you try to do it with one little thing, it'll start to question. Then you do it again. It'll start to pay attention to you. Then you'll do it again. They'll be like, well, maybe we can try it once. And then
Yeah.
eventually the elephant, the unconscious mind will be like, okay, so this is okay. This is working. And over time, you'll notice, like for us, months into this process, the wiring changes so much that you can't now undo it and think the other way because you're now rewired. For me, I know it happened with like alcohol. Alcohol was like a huge thing for me. It was just part of our life. Everything was celebrated with alcohol, cutting grass, buying fridge, friends visiting, all the holidays. It was just a thing, and part of being me identity as a man was to drink. Now I cannot even imagine how I could go back and drink, just because over the last 5 years it's been like this rewiring of like, we'll try not to, we'll try, and more and more and more. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know you can feel this way and be like reliable and just get up at 5 every morning before everybody gets up. I'm not recommending that you do it. All I'm saying is that you can take it and do it with small things, and you can do it with habits and bad things. So that's really, really important. Removing the friction to get there, it's like adding little things that can assist you with making that change. So with food, in my case, it was the counter, the salts, the supplements, and the mixers. With other things, let's say it's your walk in the morning. It's like, make sure that everything is prepared for you in the morning to just get going, right? So maybe it's like Joanna sleeps in the morning when I get up, and then I have this friction of like, well, I have to turn the light on and go through my closet and grab my gear and do whatever. It's like, maybe you can just put it in the dining room, and then whenever you get up, you just close the doors. It's quiet, it's dark, she can sleep. By the way, I still go to the closet, but I can go and basically and use the equipment, get the shoes, and then just get going. So it's like removing a friction. Everything is there ready for you. It's the same with food preparation. That's why a lot of people go and like prep their meals right on a weekend or something, because it's removing friction. That because it's easy to do things on easy days, but a situation changes when now it's you're not in the mood, you're not feeling well, your kid is not feeling well, maybe nobody's feeling well, and it's now super difficult to do it, and then it's like, and then we just drop it. So if we prepare enough ahead of time, we remove the friction and make it easier, it will help. And it also works the other way. So if you introduce friction for things that you don't want to do, like for example, hey, I'm snacking on ice cream every day, can't stop it, don't buy ice cream. Like, just simply don't get it. Because if it's Sunday afternoon, it's 6 o'clock, and you're feeling like snacking on the ice cream, what are the chances you're gonna get in the car and actually drive? I've done it, but like, it's so much harder to now talk yourself into driving and getting, and it's like, screw it, I'm just gonna like suck it and suck it up and not do it. So it works both ways. Anything you would like to add on this one?
Yeah, I'm a big prepper. You know that I like to cut up my veggies. So when I'm really hungry, I jump into the kitchen. I have my cut up veggies. I love them with hummus. I've mentioned this a couple times. And I open the box and just snack on that. Otherwise, I will go for any sweet thing that's out there to snack on, or lots of cheese, which lots of cheese is not good for you either. Um, like anything, moderation. But yeah, cutting up the things really, really, really helped me. And also, I try to, when I do make the food, I try to make a little bit more, so there's always something in the fridge left over
Yeah.
for us to grab.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I actually really appreciate this one. Just because you have your kind of routine with the foods and like eating later, but for me, when I get up in the morning and there's always something in the fridge where I can, and it's usually I'm a meat eater too, so like proteins for me in the morning are super helpful. So if we have leftovers this morning, I ate earlier, but we had leftovers from the shrimp tacos. It was super easy to just go into the fridge, grab the shrimp, heat it up, and have the whatever we use, the
Egg white rolls, like wraps.
egg white rolls, wraps, super good and super quick. So it's really, really helpful. Anything else here?
No, that's
all right.
it.
Last one, guys. You have survived. Congratulations. The last slide here is the habit stacking for weight loss. I think Joanna is better at it, and she may not even know. But the thing is, habit stacking is basically, if you're interested in the book, It's the Atomic Habits by James Clear. Um, you basically combine the things, the tasks that you're doing on a daily basis with your healthier choices, right? And it takes some time to develop those, but it's basically, if I can think about it, Joanna can give her examples. But let's say you take your supplements, or let's say you need to remember about drinking your water. It's basically tying it into a task that already exists. So if you're getting up in the morning, you wash your teeth. Maybe next thing is, you have to always remember to, like, now I'm gonna do my water. We do a lot of those combinations, a lot of habit
Mhm.
stackings, because it's easier to attach one thing to something that already exists instead of making this false promise of, like, if you just say I have to do it tomorrow, like, when? What's the trigger? What time are you
Yeah.
gonna do it? You have to be, you have to define it, and then if you glue it onto something that already exists. Can you think of an example on your end that you're doing, like, throughout the day when you get up in the morning? What sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
routines you're implementing?
Mine is actually my some of my supplements, if especially my Claritin. That's the first thing that I do in the morning. I have my water with salt. When I get up, when I get the girls going to school, I have my water, salt, and I have my supplements together. Then my other one is, while I cook dinner, I have my glass of water with vinegar in it. um those are like the big in the kitchen changes that I've made, and habits that I've
Yeah,
changed up. And walking right away. I get the girls out to the bus, I go walk right away. If I don't do that, and for some reason,
walks
sometimes we would
harder.
walk to the bus or sometimes take the car. If I
Yeah,
take the car and I come home even to hang up the keys, I will always find something else to do. So I don't even walk in the house. I just put the car
yeah,
in,
yeah.
put the keys on a little shelf that we have, and I just walk out.
Yeah, as weird as it starts, and habit stacking is not just for dieting. It's just overall a good practice. It's just like things that you have to remember, things you have to do. For me, for example, I had, like, handled most of the finances at home. So for me, when I get up in the morning, weirdly enough, I have to look at, like, our like bank stuff and statements and whatever, because I just keep track of that stuff. I spend 7 minutes on it, but I got to tell you, I did it because it helps me with controlling my stress levels, right? So I don't do it like once a month without remembering what happened during the course of like 4 weeks. So I made a little habit. Like, every morning I get up, takes me 7 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever. I just run through it, and the whole, like, I can start my day. And, like, so bills, like I said, weirdly enough, are the first thing. Then I go for my walk, like, immediately. Those are the first two things. So I do bills, I go for a walk. Then I look at other stuff, like, maybe I do work, and then I do my food, then I do more work. But that's really what we're doing. So habit stacking, I had a couple examples here. After brushing your teeth, drink water. After putting on your morning coffee or tea, okay. Do a light stretching or workout. I don't think anybody does that, but maybe. um, After dinner, go for a walk. I know Joanna loves that stuff. Usually when we eat, she's trying to talk us into, like, having a walk. It's not only good for your health, but it's helps with glucose and keeping your levels down, so your sugars down. So it was part of our hacks. If you didn't see the hacks episode, go back and, I think, one episode, and that's where we talked about this. And then sleep preparation. After turning off the TV, prepare for bed by dimming lights and setting consistent bedtime, and blah 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 blah. You get the point. Anything you would like to add on this one?
No.
I'm out of breath.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, so night I have night preparation too. Especially with the girls. We shut the TV off and an hour before, no electronics. And then they go through the stage of, going into the rooms, arguing a little bit, brushing their teeth, whatever they got to do. In the meantime, I always clean up the kitchen. Sometimes that's the time if they really are arguing, so I don't increase my cortisol. I actually go into the bedroom and do my evening exercises while letting them be on the other side of the house and just go at it.
yeah.
Then I come back, everybody has calmed down. and we do our nightly routine of good nights, I love yous, and scratching backs.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Something to recommend. Hopefully, information from this episode helped you guys. There's so much more. I will try to include, not try, I will include the link. Joanna wrote it down, so I'll include it. One thing in the end, sort of in the summary, I just wanted to say, when you're going through this process, focus on your little wins. Focus on the steps you're making forward, not your past self. Psychologically, it's very important. I actually had a book recommendation for you guys, those that like to read, maybe before bedtime. The book is called the Gap and the Gain. The guy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he talks about Dan Sullivan. This is a little bit business oriented book, but it kind of talks about the aspect of like we always our psychology as we're learning, in order to protect us, it always goes back, right? It always goes like history, what happened in the past, who hurt us in the past, what didn't work in the past. So our brain is trained to like go back and constantly evaluate the past, like what happened, because those are the lessons that we have learned. And what we don't do really well is focusing on the gains, right? So it's like even today, if you guys sit down and like think about your accomplishment, like people talking about thankfulness, right? It's sort of like a woo-woo stuff, but think about it. If you're focusing constantly on what you don't have,
Yeah.
you'll be unhappy. Like you're constantly going to be unhappy. If you're constantly going to think about, oh, wow, I have a good house, but I wish I had better. I have a good car, but I wish I had better. I have this job, but I wish I had better. I have this wife, and I wish I had better. But you get the point. Like if you don't spend the time intentionally thinking about stuff that like, hey, this is actually working. Like if we're looking around, we were sitting the other day watching a story about those. Where was it? Costa Rica, Cuba. The
No,
kids
it was
that were, yeah,
Colombia.
Colombia. Yeah, Colombia. I don't know if you guys heard. Four kids, right?
Yeah,
The
last
oldest
year.
was 12 or 13, and the youngest was 11 months.
Correct.
Lost in the jungle, and like we just sat through it as a family, watched the whole thing, and
Mhm.
and when you're looking about like conditions and the environment and what's going on, like it just makes you, I don't know, it helps me reflect and think about like the positive and the good, and like you look around at your kids and where you are, and like it could be a lot worse, right? And I don't think we do it enough, to be honest. And when I read this book, I got to tell you, every single time something like when I'm trying to like look at the gap, this book helped me to kind of go over that hump. And I'm like, yeah, it is. There's always going to be something I'm looking forward to, and something I'm planning to get, and a goal I'm trying to set. But I'm like, I'm also looking at the gains, right? So when we're losing, I don't just focus on like, well, it didn't work this week and it didn't work maybe this week. It's like it's okay. I still have a month or two or whatever. I'm healthy. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna continue on going, because that's, and it changes. Now it changes. Like I imagine things, kind of envision the things in the future where it's like, oh my god, like I know Joanna, she has, when she's getting ready and when she's losing weight, she constantly like plans for like, oh, I'm gonna buy clothing, or like I'm gonna fit into those old pair of jeans that I didn't fit for a while. So like have those future goals, and I gotta tell you, it makes a world of difference, because you're becoming more positive. Instead of thinking negative on the negative stuff and the bad
Yeah.
things, which we tend to do, you focus on the good. You're starting to like switch over and becoming more positive and more optimistic, and that's just, I don't know, it's been working for us. Hopefully it works for you. And that is end of my spiel. You wanted to talk about the challenge. What's going on?
Yes. So we just finished one challenge on Wednesday, yesterday, 24 hour. I challenge you guys again to do another one before the holidays. We will give you more information, but again, we'll do another 24 hours. And those of you that didn't get a chance to join us in November, maybe you can join us in December. And as always, we'll be posting more information and some helpful tips along the way.
If you're YouTube, if you want to join us, our Facebook group, here's the code. You can just scan it, join us. We will be happy to have you guys. The more the merrier, obviously. So that's that message, and with that, I think we are done. Happy
Yes. We
Thanksgiving,
are done.
guys. Be
Happy
thankful,
Thanksgiving.
reflect, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.